Hello everyone and welcome back to Backlog Banter. My name is Tucker Hazel and this is Abram Buhner, my world-traveling co-host. We're here to talk about Mario Kart World, the launch game, the major launch game for Nintendo Switch 2. Abram has put a lot of time into it. I have put as much time as I want into it, and now we are here to talk about our thoughts on this game. Because Abram, the era is upon us. God is my witness. There is a new Mario Kart game that we can play. It has been a very long time, and we're here to give you our in-depth early thoughts on the game. The game's been out for about 2 weeks. Abram's played a lot of it, has a lot of thorough thoughts, and so we're going to kind of break down what this game brings to the Mario Kart series, what it means in terms of the beginning of a new generation for Nintendo, and a new generation of Mario Kart for the first time in over a decade.
How many countries outside the U.S. have you been to?
3 total, but one substantially.
Sure.
Technically, I've been in Mexico because I was on a cruise and I stepped off for a couple hours.
Sure.
It counts, but doesn't really count. And I think I had a meal in Canada, and then I definitely went to Italy for a week. So that
this is
definitely
true.
counts. Yeah.
Okay, so I've been to 4. So I would be by comparison your worldly co-host.
Yeah.
By comparison, not in turn. I think Jean has been to 5 million.
Yeah,
countries
I think
outside
so.
of the
Yeah.
U.S.
She's inventing countries as she goes.
That's true. She might as well. She might as well be.
Yeah, because you're not familiar with geography, as we all know.
Yeah, it's
But that's what the great thing about Mario Kart World is. It gets to teach you a little bit of geography.
Yeah, you like Dino Jungle.
Yeah.
That's one of the countries I've not been to yet, and I would like to.
No, Jean went there though.
Yeah.
She got malaria there.
Tucker, I have played according to the Nintendo Switch app.
Yes.
Which gives you a more precise playtime than...
Oh, does it?
Yes, than the Switch itself.
Maybe I don't need to have parental controls on my Switch too then.
Well, it's still a less precise amount than the parental controls, but I'm just not going to put parental controls on my Switch.
Yeah.
I've played 21 hours or more of Mario Kart World.
Yeah, in just a couple weeks.
Here.
Yeah. Which is nothing compared to some of our friends who are going for all of the P-switches and coins and question mark blocks. Caleb has over 50 hours in this game, which is crazy.
Well,
but
if I look here, because I think this is an important point. This game is really, I think it's, obviously it's partially because it is the Switch 2 launch game. I mean, what else are you going to be playing for the same duration of time, volume of time? But, if I look at some of my friends here, Bo has played 45 hours, Dan's played 45, and the numbers just get higher from there, especially with streamers and YouTubers. This game is very popular on Twitch right now, and I know that people are racking up massive hours.
Yeah, let's see what the SteamDB numbers are real quick.
Well, I think probably less than Midnight Murder Club.
Oh, what the heck? This game's a flop. 0 SteamDB current players? What the heck?
But so in addition to the playtime hours context, I think it's important context if people aren't familiar with me. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is in my top 5 favorite games ever. Yeah. And that's sort of obviously it's for 8 Deluxe, but it's sort of broadly encompassing of 8 as well. But I've played every Mario Kart game pretty extensively, with the exception of Super and Super Circuit, which both suck.
Yeah. Yes, I agree.
Mario Kart is among my favorite Nintendo franchises ever. I've been waiting so long for World, and it just simply hasn't disappointed me. It feels a little hard to speak about it in a really deep way yet, because as you were saying, these are sort of our first thoughts. Yeah. Mario Kart 8 came out when I was 13, right? And I'm 24 now. I was in 7th grade when I got that game. I've been out of college.
You didn't have a license. Well, you still don't have a license. You didn't have any responsibilities, and now you have a home. You actually, more so than many people I know, you go and do adult household chores a lot. You like to you're a handyman. You fix things and you weed. Not the drug, but you go out and pick weed and stuff. I'm that guy's. You're not that responsible, but you have some responsibilities now. And
this is true.
That just goes to show how long the Mario Kart 8 era lasted. Yes. And that's the key for me, is Mario Kart 8 came out, I'm same age as you, so I was very, very young. I was in middle school when that happened. And I didn't follow it. I wasn't even watching directs when the game was announced. That was really even before I got super obsessed with keeping up with Nintendo. And so other than like the booster course pass, I guess, and of course I got 8 Deluxe when it came out, I've never really been in the ethos and the whole journey of a Mario Kart game. And so I finally feel like I have a chance to peek behind the curtain and see what everyone else has seen following a Mario Kart game from its reveal to everything else. And the great part about this game, and I was reiterating this as you and I were playing the game and having a great time. We were playing together yesterday, and I'm like, this is the worst this game will ever be. And it's a really, really good game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because I think the first Mario Kart game I really was playing regularly was Mario Kart Wii.
Yeah.
And that game had a pretty interesting tale of support because there are these, there's this Mario Kart channel you could download to your Wii, and you could play these sort of, I can't remember if it was weekly or if it was bi-weekly or what it was, but these online challenges. And that was... Fortnightly, sure, and that was really fun, and it was sort of an early look at what playing a Mario Kart game with sort of a persistent tail support could be like.
Sure.
Because obviously DS didn't have that, and Mario Kart 7 really didn't either. I think there were some challenges in Mario Kart 7. I think that's one of the Mario Karts I played the least of. So don't skin me alive if I'm a little off about the details of Mario Kart 7.
Don't flay me.
But I think it's an interesting point, right? Because this is obviously such a communal series. It always has been.
And this one more than any of them.
Yeah. I mean, they're obviously with the free roam component and just the broadly different approach Nintendo has to online now than in the previous eras of the series. So I think the way you're talking about it as a springboard, as the beginning of this long-tail journey that we'll take with the game, as we've both taken with Mario Kart games in the past, is important. And it'll be interesting to kind of have this be a conversation we can revisit in a couple of years and sort of see really what's changed about the game.
Yeah, definitely.
How much it's grown, because obviously if you have that conversation about Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, it's incomparable, really.
No, it's actually comedic. When you look back at how the original Mario Kart 8 game launched and the number of cups that were there and the number of modes that you had and the number of characters that you had and number of options, almost everything that people really love about that game outside of that core gameplay, which has always been excellent, was really built on over time. People, I think, fail to really remember what the long tail support over the last decade of that game was. It not only added a substantial content with DLC that was, of course, then included in the base deluxe game, but then base deluxe also added some new mechanics and new modes and new characters, so then that grew a little bit. And then, of course, there was a booster course pass that literally doubled the amount of content. They added a VR mode. They added 200cc. Like, this game has grown and molded and like become like 6 games in one. It's the Mario Kart equivalent of like the Sega Genesis with all these add-ons that like make this like mega contraption of something that is very, very cool and very impressive, but it took a long time to get to that. And so where I'm comparing Mario Kart World, I think it's most fair to compare it to that, if not the base game of Mario Kart 8, because that is almost a comedically small game, as I was mentioning, but at least to like that game and its DLC. And so I think this game is pretty comparable to that, and they're going to give it probably 10 years of support.
Well, here's where I disagree, because I do disagree with that. Because I think that there's a difference in what this game represents because it has been so long. You know, when Mario Kart 8 came out, it had been 3 years.
11 to 2014,
Not exactly, because it was like spring of 2014 that Mario Kart 8 hit Wii U, and it was holiday 2011, but it was quick. And before that, it was 3 years or 4 years from Wii to 7. So there was always this sort of feeling that these games were not releasing fast, but they were absolutely releasing faster than they were from. Even if we're going from 8 Deluxe to World, it's been a long gap. You know, if you're thinking about the series historically, you know, you would have fit 2 or 3 Mario Kart games in there. Now, of course, in a manner of speaking, they did with the booster course pass.
And Tour and the Home Invasion and all this stuff. Like, the team
100%.
was trying things. But for the core Mario Kart audience, this is obviously the longest gap. Well, in basically every way, it's the longest gap.
and so we know...
It's been 5 years since Home Invasion.
This is true.
Home Circuit, which is the RC game.
Co-developed with Velen Studios, same way that Tor is co-developed with...
Second Velen Studios.
That's actually true. That's true.
Developers of Midnight Murder Club, for those who aren't familiar. I've been thinking about this recently. I'm like, we make some horseshit-ass references, and I want to make sure that people are as up to speed with the shit we're slinging as possible. So I'm like, okay, Midnight Murder Club reference. All right, Velen Studios, you gotta keep in the loop.
Well, I mean, people won't know Midnight Murder Club, but they will know Velen Studios. So they go, the Knockout
City
some
more context,
studio. But so obviously that's a great point. EPD9, developer of this game, has been busy in the period since 8 Deluxe, and we even know from the recent Ask the Developer interview that this game started its conceptualization as early as 2017 on Switch 1, but was then waylaid because of technical issues with the system, moved the project to Switch 2, and in the meantime, the Booster Course Pass obviously took up a good amount of resources, but then as you're saying, these co-development projects elsewhere. Yeah. Nonetheless, I do think that the gap between proper core Mario Kart titles, the importance of this game as the launch title for Switch 2, the sort of building expectation that I think we've had as a community. To me, I'm not necessarily holding it up against 8, and also in part because 8 at release was a bare bones project.
Yeah, of course.
In many dimensions, battle mode is an often cited example of that. But I still think, nonetheless, it is still right to talk about it as the start of something. Yeah. Because it definitely is. And in terms of the foundation of the game, I think that this is probably the best that the racing has ever been.
Sure, yeah. Yeah. And I guess that's where we start, is the core mechanics of the game, which everything in this game, I think, ties together in an interesting way, where this, to me, is very much what I felt going into something like Breath of the Wild or Super Mario Bros. Wonder, where it feels like for the first time not necessarily the first time in those series, but for the first time in this series, like from the ground up, rethinking what things are going to look like, what they're going to feel like, what map design is going to be like, number of racers, speed of the items, these things. Like, this game is very different and rethought from the ground up in almost every dimension. And the core racing is, at a very base level, some of the least changed aspects of this game, but it definitely is just that much tighter. It's just that much tighter. The amount of control that you have, I like the fact that you can like lean your cart, and of course you get these extra moves to rail grind and jump and like charge a jump and ride on walls and things, which are things that I have not fully explored yet in terms of the tech and movement that this game allows for. But it does help this game feel like there's that deeper pool of possibility for you to really explore that will give this game a richer community experience and a richer like learning curve over the course of the next few years as people play it and play it and play it. And it's one of these things where I feel like once this game really settles in and people really adapt to the way that this game controls, it's going to be odd to go back to these other Mario Kart games and feel like the moveset is kind of like stripped back in comparison.
Yeah, I mean, there's a pretty like linear development of how Mario Kart feels from Mario Kart DS until 8.
Yeah.
And I think that this is the first one since that sort of run, and obviously those games have
that was the new soup era of Mario Kart. In some ways, literally, those are the exact same consoles that the New Super Mario Bros. Games were on.
Yeah, and there's obviously differences in feel between those. We
even got deluxe versions of each of those series on Switch.
Different techniques that make those games feel very singular, for better or worse, whether it's Snake and Mario Kart DS or whatever. But I think this is the most singular that a Mario Kart game has felt to play in a long time, which is a large part of why I'm so happy with it. I think what's interesting about this game is, we recently recorded our review of Welcome Tour, and talked about how that game sort of dovetails with Nintendo's current philosophy. But I think that this game does too. You think about the Switch 2 itself. It's this system that on its face might seem like a pretty unassuming and in some ways marginal upgrade, but when you really play it, when you really come to understand the nuances of the hardware, you see exactly how much has been rethought. And I feel very similarly about Mario Kart World. I think what this game has done is it's retained a lot of the core accessibility of especially Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. You can sit anybody down with World and they're going to have a great time, not only because the core racing is not particularly deep, but also because of the assist options. But then you have a remarkably high skill ceiling here. And I don't know if you've been watching any of it or seeing it on Twitter or YouTube Shorts or whatever, the amount of incredible shortcuts and tech that people are already discovering for the way you can chain together the rail grinds into wall boosts, into these incredible tricks across gaps. I mean, this is the most expressive a Mario Kart has ever been.
Easily,
And while Mario Kart 8 had some really...
It's the Super Mario Odyssey of Mario Kart movement.
and it feels like that the game is built for that. There is some like really strange esoteric techniques in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe where like you would toggle on and off smart steering to get yourself locked into these crazy angles to exploit extensions and gliding and things like that. Like that game...
That's new to me. I don't know
had
that.
it had really peculiar tech, but it was all sort of there edgewise, right? I think Odyssey is a great comparison because there's a level of expression intrinsic to how the game has been designed by EPD9. And one thing they cite is in the Ask Developer interview, which I highly recommend people reading, is the influence of skateboarding on this game.
Oh, sure.
And you can absolutely feel that. I was just playing before we were recording, and I was free roaming a little bit, waiting for a Knockout Tour online match just to queue up, and I had used my charge jump to trick to the right onto a rail, did tricks on that, jumped off that, tricked off a telephone pole, and then tricked off a toad walking down the road, bouncing on his head.
Oh, sure, yeah, because the things are bouncy in this game.
Yeah, the game really has this street skate philosophy that I think is underappreciated, but core to why this game is going to have, at a mechanical level, a much more rewarding and a much harder to master skill ceiling than past games, even for a more intermediate player like myself, which is really, really exciting, and I think it speaks to exactly where the time went. We can talk about the interconnected world, and we will, but when I think about where the time went in this game, it's core to the expression, the movement, and the animation above anything else.
Yeah, no, I mean, and as I mentioned, I think that's one of the most interesting parts of the game that the hardcore community will really appreciate is how much depth the gameplay has, and it feels like a different game. When you're watching these clips, you're like, that's not fucking Mario Kart. Yeah. But it's clear also that you're right. Much like Odyssey, the tracks are designed for this. I'm sure at some point, once people have really gotten into this game, where they're going to be doing skips that are very much not intended. Yeah. But the things that are happening here are because the tracks are designed to accommodate for it. And I think that also lends the track design, for me, this feeling of expansion, right? It is when you used to have just like walls along the side of a track in a previous game, that is it. You're driving down this corridor, but you get these choices of where you want to explore the track and how you want to, because you say expression in the movement, but it's also expression in exploration. You get many options of, if you go up this telephone wire, not only are you able to go on the telephone wire and your cart's on the side and you get this fun little animation, you can do tricks and stuff, but then you're up in the air. So that gives you this option to jump off and find either a relatively find a relatively hidden place to wall ride off of, or find a building to like run on top of. Like, you get this sense that the tracks are layered and not just like two paths that split and then join back up, but 3 or 4 different ways you can approach 2 paths that then sometimes spiderweb. And because the tracks are also malleable within themselves of what way you're playing the track, whether they are doing the loops or they're interconnected, or you're doing Knockout Tour, or you're exploring in the open world, it feels like there's 6 tracks within every one track okay, actually we're going to go this way this time, and that's going to take us up to this other track, or it's going to be blocked off and it's going to funnel us this way. They feel much more expansive, which just gives a for me, and a very core part of this game's design that is appealing to me that might not be the thing that especially hardcore Mario Kart players gravitate to the most, but it's this expansion and a sense of place that really sells this as a place I want to be in, rather than I think Mario Kart track design has always been very cool, but also very singular and insular within each track design. But having things feel more expansive and expressive, and then obviously interconnected on top of that, is like layers upon layers of things that, like, to me, make me want to engage with the track design on a much deeper level.
Yeah, I mean, there's often times in past Mario Kart games, like, there is a right line to drive. Mm-hmm. And if you're off that line, it's slow, or there's an alternate route, but one of them is just objectively better than the other. And it's not necessarily that that's not the case here, but it's that the balance of the movement, the track design, and the current balance of items really forces you to make more decisions on a moment-to-moment level. And I think that's that's the behavior that responds to what you're saying on these different paths, right? And in that, I really see a game that's built to last, right? I can't imagine that when EPD9 was working on Mario Kart 8 in 2014, that they realized that they were only going to be making a deluxe iteration and DLCs for the subsequent 11 years. Yeah. But I think you can
because
feel
that team had also been doing that 3 to 4 year cycle and very, very iterative, and like building off of the exact same framework almost each time, especially for that preceding couple of generations. This is a breaking free of that, and again, in the same way Wonder was, of like, all right, we've taken this gap. We've learned things from these other side experiments. There's definitely a little bit more to her in the base of this than there was, obviously, in 8. And so that gives this a refresh point that we've been talking about this whole time. Yeah,
and I mean, they even said that in the Ask the Developer column. They were asked why isn't this game called Mario Kart 9, and essentially the paraphrasing their answer, it would have been Mario Kart 9 if we were just doing more tracks, but this is something fundamentally different. Mm-hmm. And so I don't even, for me, I don't really feel that the current like 31 tracks or whatever it is in the game is too slight, because I feel like there's so much to discover, and because this game is so frantic that it doesn't really let me settle into the same approach each time that I settle into in a game like Mario Kart 8, which is not only easier, but it has a little bit less chaos in the moment to moment, so to where I sort of just find myself racing the same lap over and over again. And it speaks to, I think, where this game is taking inspiration from the past titles. It really comes back to the items in a lot of ways. And I have gripes with the item roulette as it stands currently, but it's very much like Wii in terms of how chaotic the items are. And to compensate for that, the physics of being hit are very different than in a game like 8, where you'd be spun out basically to a stop. But here it's much more akin to Double Dash, which is my second favorite Mario Kart game, wherein an item hits you and for the most part you're rolling forwards. The game really doesn't grind you to a halt almost ever, because they understand that if you're in 15th place and you're getting hit left, right, and center, sometimes hit multiple times in immediate succession, not as a random moment, but as an every race occurrence, you can't be spun out. You have to be spun forward. And I think looking to the more party-minded, more chaotic Mario Kart games of the past, and pairing that with this incredibly high skill ceiling creates this really fun fusion where this chaos keeps everybody on a equal playing field, as Mario Kart always does, but the higher skill ceiling lets you take these alternate routes to get out of that chaos. If you see a bunch of people and everyone's got all this shit in front of you, you're going to get up on the telephone pole to the side and get around them, right? It's a much more dynamic experience. So as much as it is new and dynamic, it's also very much rooted in lessons from past games.
Yeah. Well, and not only just past games, but because I also think it doubles down on what makes Mario Kart special. I actually, this morning, before I was playing a little bit of Mario Kart World, I played some Mario Kart Deluxe. Actually, I put it into my Switch 2, and I want to talk about that experience from a couple of angles, and how it helps me appreciate, for me, Mario Kart World in a lot greater depth. But I was playing on the last cup from base 8 Deluxe, and the first track of that was is this F-Zero track. I don't remember which one it is, but the relative simplicity of that experience compared to the chaos of Mario Kart World that I'd done before was night and day. And because you think about Mario Kart and you think about getting hit by the blue shell and shells and bananas being thrown everywhere and all of this stuff going on, but Mario Kart World like triples that in terms of the amount of stuff that's happening. And so when you think about Mario Kart as historically the party racing game, that's what this game is in like its very, very core, and which is something that definitely helps it appeal to me a little bit stronger, because it does feel more distinct. And it also is taking some inspiration seemingly from external racing games, specifically F-Zero. I feel a lot of F-Zero X or F-Zero 99 in the and of course Knockout Tour, which we'll talk about, or the like bumper cars nature of this game, where you're just always like bouncing off of people and there's so much going on within the track. It's not only about making sure you're doing the curves right, but also being aware of your surroundings and the people around you and the obstacles on the courses in a much more deep way that makes it a lot more engaging just to be on the track in this game, at least for my taste. The amount of enemies and cars with different like mechanics within them. You have these cannon cars, you have these bomb cars, you have the ones with surfboards in the back that you can trick off of. You have the ones that have a little they're like food trucks, so they have the food bag on top, so then that's an item that you can get. There are more item boxes scattered within the tracks, just like between cars and things. Cars that are dropping items behind them, so you're like following this trail of either bananas, so you have to dodge them, or mushrooms that you can like follow the car and like collect like 3 or 4 of them in a row. It is so dynamic, and to your point earlier, it's never the same because all of this stuff is at least to some degree randomly generated, and so you are having to keep much more. You have to be much more aware of what's around you to actually make it through these tracks, and it's just so much more rich for my taste to just be able to feel like I have to lock in. I can't go on autopilot in this game because there's always something different being thrown at me, and being able to understand how these things kind of combo into each other. You can dodge the car here, get a little boost pad, go off the guy, as you said, bounce off an enemy. Like, you can find expressiveness and engagement with the track design and the mechanics later on top of it in a way that wasn't even considered in the previous games, because those are much more about literally the curvature and layout of the tracks, where there's a jump, where there's a gliding section. This game is, even on just a flat road, just driving on a flat road in this game with all the chaos going on is more engaging to me than most of my previous Mario Kart experiences.
Well, this is what I'm curious to learn more about from you, because Mario Kart in the past has always had sort of a limited appeal for you. Mm-hmm. Do you feel, because obviously you have very high praise of the core game, but also we've played very different amounts the last couple of weeks. Now, obviously, you've been way more busy as of late than I have been. But do you sort of see this game as a game where, yes, it speaks to you more, but that's still not more to the point where you'd play this regularly, extensively, or does it do that for you?
We'll have to see, because my experience with the game has only gotten better the more that I've played it. I'm still actually working my way through the Grand Prix. That's just to show you how little of this game comparatively I've played. I do think I understand it enough to do a review here with you, but yesterday playing with you and Dan was the best time I've had with this game. Sure. And then in previous experiences with Mario Kart, if I was playing with my friends and they said goodbye, I would just turn off the game. And then I wouldn't touch it until they asked me to play again. But when I finished up, I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's go do the Grand Prix. Let's go explore the open world a little bit. I wanted to learn how to do the charge jump, and so I looked up a video. I'm like, oh, okay, if you hold down R, and then you can like flick the stick in the air. I'm like, okay, I did feel myself, at least for this moment, wanting to engage with the game more on my terms than previous games. What'll be interesting. So what I feel about this game is that, yes, it's a game that appeals to me a lot deeper from my personal tastes. than previous Mario Kart games. I don't think that means that I will get super into playing it on my own or playing online without my friends. But because this is such a fresh experience, and also because it's something that'll be evolving, presumably at a decent clip. We have no idea what the post-launch support of this is going to be, but I think we can... Nintendo's been pretty good at their post-launch support in recent years, so I think that this would probably be the forefront of that. If this is something where every 6 weeks, every 2 months, something like that, we're getting a new course, a new character, something to sort of explore, and that incentivizes people to sort of come back to it and the community to continue to rally around this game, and we're coming together on voice chat, which a game chat I want to talk about, actually, the way that synergizes with this game so well, and I'm getting a notification on my phone that the guys are playing Mario Kart, I'm much more likely to want to continue to jump into Mario Kart when, on a base level, it's a game that I just enjoy playing more, and I'm not doing it either begrudgingly or out of quote-unquote peer pressure, like, okay, it's what the friends are doing, it's what's happening at the house right now, so I'll be doing it. But the game, I think, also incentivizes me through just the Switch 2 ecosystem to keep up with the game more. If it's being updated, if I'm getting notifications, I'm going to constantly be reminded that it's a game that I have a fun time with, and it's really accessible for me to just jump in and continue playing, and also with a lot more variety. There are the Grand Prix, but there is also Knockout Tour, and there is the open world, and there is the battle modes, and you can go do all the things in the open world. Like, there are these layers upon where I feel like I don't have to just sit down and do the same courses that I've done so many times. That's my problem with racing games, is I feel like I've seen this before, and the things that are changing around me are the people I'm playing with. But I'm going to be hitting these exact same curves every time. But this game is also designed from a ground-up level that I feel like I'm having a dynamic experience, just engaging with the game on top of everyone around me changing. Oh, and then also there are literally double the amount of people, which we haven't really talked about. This is a 24-racer game, which is crazy, and feels like... This is what 8-player Smash felt like when we finally unlocked that in Smash 4. Like, oh shit! This is crazy.
See, but I agree in the main, but I don't agree in a specific example, because I hate 8-player Smash Brothers. I think and I think it's actually an important point of comparison, because I think 8-player Smash Brothers is completely unintelligible.
Sure, yeah.
I think that the spirit is fun, but in practice, I'm like, I don't. 4 of you need to go play like hopscotch or something, and then we'll swap off and on the console. I really like 20...
Go play stick and hoop, you bastard.
Go play Coconut Cup. Go play Coconut Cup and Ball. You ever play that one?
Like you hide the ball and you mix them up?
Yeah, it's a good one.
That's more like... I feel like it's more of like a magic trick or thing. Like, people like usually weird shit with
I guess it's more of like a money... It's for like hustling people.
Yeah. Which, of course, is what you did with your friends in middle school.
Of course. Yeah, that's how I actually bought my copy of Mario Kart 8.
Oh, congratulations.
But no, I think 24 Racers works extremely well here.
Yeah.
Because obviously the game is built around that. 8-player Smash always felt like an 8-player Smash is like 200cc. That's the comparison I would draw.
Sure.
200cc was a added complication on top of a game not built for it, and I feel the same for Smash Brothers. And I think that 24 Racers is such a fundamental difference that it touches every aspect of the design. Yeah. Whether that's the roster simply being so much larger to accommodate 24 characters on the track at one time, be it the width of the track, be it the item distribution. Like, the game is built around it, and I think that makes it feel very natural.
Definitely, yeah. Do you like my F-Zero comparison, by the way?
I don't really see a lot of F-Zero in this game, to be totally honest with you.
Yeah.
Just because I think that the spirit of F-Zero is different. I think that they construct their feeling of franticness quite differently, because F-Zero has a sort of risk and reward to it. I think that this game boosting, doesn't necessarily have, because you can put yourself, and it's actually partially why I think F-Zero 99 is like maybe the best F-Zero game. Like, you can really put yourself in a poor position by making the wrong choice.
Yeah, sure.
I think what's been fun about Mario Kart World for me is that you can risk more and there's less punishment, which I like. You can fall back in the pack and you can make make that up. Because I think the tuning of the items is pretty good.
Yeah.
If you're in the middle of the pack and you get the right item, you will get back up to the front, and then you will fall back. And I think that there's a better sense of give and take in this game than past Mario Kart games, because if you ended up in front by enough in Mario Kart 8, the blue shell or whatever is going to be fairly trivial, because the item roulette was not really going to give people in like 5th place the opportunity to overtake you in a moment.
Yeah.
But that is here in this game, and I think that that's very unique, and it goes back to what you're saying of the true party feeling. It feels closer to Mario Party, literally, in terms of how things can change on a dime, but how you're not fucked, really. Yeah. I think you're rarely fucked in this game, and I think people are too focused on how oppressive, quote unquote, the items can feel at times. But in reality, you're right back in the mix really fast. I think that's very unique to this game.
I missed a turn on the cup I was playing earlier, and I fell off the edge. And again, another great small design decision. Lakitu picks you up, puts you down. If you press gas button right as you land, then you pick up back to like
another old
quarter
feature.
Speed or half speed or something like that. But it's definitely a lot faster than, all right, gotta get going again.
Yeah.
But one thing that I like about the Mario Party-ish like party nature of this game is that it recontextualizes a lot of the items in subtle ways that I feel like people don't realize, but I was picking up on almost immediately, which is, in previous games, if someone had shells rotating around them, I don't know how many games this has been true for, but you could hit them if you were close enough to them, but it was rare. But when you have 24 players and everyone's kind of like jockeying for position and someone's got shells rotating around them, that's actually a hazard. That is actually something that you can hit. And so instead of throwing it in front of you or behind you, having them rotate around you is actively something that is a choice. Like, you can do that as like a protection, as like a shield, basically. Or you can go next to someone who has mushrooms circling around them, and you can use that and just grab one and like boost off. And so it makes the items that were things that like, it rotating around you was a cool visualization in the past, but it was something I never really considered in terms of the way I was engaging with another player and realizing what items they had. But I have to either be more careful if they've got the shells rotating around them now, because I'm just closer to them and I'm bouncing off of more people. There's more opportunity. Or if it's a mushroom, I can go by them and go, zoom, fuck you. And it also makes the super horn way more useful, because you're fucking up like 7 people when you're in a tight pack and you use that. It's like, oh shit.
Yeah, and to be clear, that stuff isn't new. You could get that mushroom boost from before, but I think what you're identifying, which I completely agree with, is that the increased player count makes the I like the almost like this alt function you're pointing to with these items.
Yeah.
More
it was
central.
something there, but you have to actually consider it more frequently now. It was like an off chance occasional thing in the past.
Yeah, there's just more small mechanical interactions in this game.
Yeah, definitely.
Than there have been in the past games, just by merit of the players on the track, and I think that's really great. To me, the best part of this game is Knockout Tour. I think Knockout Tour is tremendous. Mm-hmm. I don't think Knockout Tour is all. I don't think that the track design is as tight here. I think that there are portions of Knockout Tour, a couple very specific ones. There's a long bridge portion in one of the rallies. There is also a couple sort of desert highway portions where it really feels like either you're pulling a golden mushroom or you're not making the checkpoint. Mm-hmm. I think that some of the highway stretches are not that strong. And kind of consign you to a loss if you don't have the right tool. There's also a couple on-water portions that are similar to this. But by and large, I think Knockout Tour is tremendous. I really... It's a sort of idea that makes you wonder why it was never there in the past. It's that sort of seamless. And I love F-Zero 99. I had just passed 75 hours in F-Zero 99 before Switch 2 came out. Yeah. And I've not even... the game.
Caleb's about to pass you in his Mario Kart World Hours.
I've not even turned F-Zero 99 on since Switch 2 came out, even though that F-Zero 99 is a regular drop-in for 20, 30 minutes a couple times a week game for me. I don't even feel the desire to, because the Knockout Tour just works so well. It captures that spirit.
Yeah, it's got some F-Zero in it.
In that sense, 100%. Yes, in that surface level sense, it does. So I love that mode. What does Knockout Tour do for you in comparison to the other racing modes?
It's great. It's a lot of fun. The stakes are higher. The flow is better because one of the things that I have always, again, it's something that's been a distancing for me from engaging more deeply with other racing games is that I've never really liked the idea of a cup too much because it's like, all right, really it's about the placement you get within the multiple cups, and then it's the averaging of all that because you get points depending on your placement, and that felt like just like arbitrary, like it was a reset point of like, you've got the balloon cup and it's got the grass level, the pirate ship level, the candy level, whatever, like it's just these disparate things that are slapped together for no real thematic reason. They're just there and you're doing whatever, and then whoever gets the highest average on all of them across is who actually ends up winning. The flow of Knockout Tour completely changes that for me. Is there's no downtime. You always have to be mentally, I was going to say turned on, but that's not exactly what I mean.
Switched on, how about?
Yeah, but I feel like people, I think people use that meaning the same thing that I didn't mean. But you have to be engaged the entire time.
Yeah.
And the fact that you continue between the courses and there is that no downtime, again, makes it feel like one big race, which is obviously the intention. And so when you are in first, you are in first. You won that fucking thing, and it is obvious. And I love the obvious nature of that, rather than like really just waiting for like the points to tabulate, like some guy to use the calculator, and then it's like, oh, all right, that person got first. At the end, it's like, and they're on the top of the podium. It's like, you really earned that shit, and it's obvious you earned that shit in Knockout Tour because you're actually in first.
Yeah, I mean, there's a different appeal to both because there is definitely a frustration, but I think this is part of what makes Knockout Tour fun. There's a frustration to do so well and then get screwed over and lose in the aggregate because of a decision at the end. Grand Prix is sort of a survey of your skill across discrete races.
Sure.
Provides a different appeal, and that's what I like about both of these being in the game together.
Mm-hmm. I'm not saying you get rid of cups or anything, because I know that's like the appeal of the games, but again, appreciating the variety that this game has. Knockout Tour is something that appeals to my sensibilities of what I'm looking for in racing a lot stronger than those, but the other option is still there.
Well, it's interesting because it is and it isn't, because this is a very different way to approach Grand Prix, which I really enjoy, because Grand Prix has always been 3 separate tracks. And now the tracks are connected end for end in Grand Prix, and you drive between them. The setup of the Grand Prix now is the first race is 3 laps around the track. And then the next races, you do 2 laps that connect the tracks together, and then 1 lap of the actual track. And then 2 more connection laps, 1 lap of the actual track, etc. till you finish the Grand Prix. Mm-hmm. And that's very different. Yeah. And I in practice, I would rather just play 3 laps of the same track, but that's what versus mode is for, right? Yeah. And so I like that they've found this new approach to Grand Prix, which offers this continuity, you're saying, but still has this segmented approach of Grand Prix. So I think it really offers a reason to go through those and to play versus separately, which I really like. I think that's a really smart choice.
Yeah, because you get this hybrid in the middle. Yeah, it's not quite versus. It's not quite Knockout Tour.
Yeah, I where this game does lose me a little bit is in a lack of options, though. And I think that this is where I want the game to improve the most, even beyond more tracks. Looking at versus mode, for instance, you can pick between playing, and they're oddly named. Yeah. You can pick between essentially racing on tracks, 3 laps of each. You can choose between driving between them, or you can choose random. Now, how I usually play Mario Kart, how me and John usually play it, is we'll do versus race, and then we'll choose random. So we're not just picking our favorites over and over again. But random here will only randomly route you from one starting track to the last track. It won't randomly pick 6
Another
or 8
thing. Yeah.
different 3-lap tracks. That should just be a toggle. It's the same with playing online. Right now, the meta online is to always pick random, because when you're racing online, at the point of picking a track, you've got 3 to choose from. They'll usually be connected with arrows, which means you're going to drive the highway laps and then 1 lap of the main track. But if you pick random, it will always give you a disconnected 3-lap race. So most people just spam random. You'll be in these lobbies where it's 60%, 70% random choice, because people want to play a particular way that you can't play. Even balloon battle right now is if you get, it's 3 minutes, but if you lose your balloons, you're out. You can't choose to respawn with halved points like in past games. There are just these little toggles that I would really appreciate them adding, that I think would make the game feel more flexible and have even more longevity, which is in keeping with the whole intent of this game. So I really hope, or even like a custom item toggle like we got in 8 Deluxe. That's not here. So there's just things like this that I think add up to inconvenience. Which I don't want to feel in a game that's this grand, especially when the bottlenecks feel so slight, but end up being quite meaningful.
Yeah, no, it is interesting that in a game about player expression and choice and exploration and things, that on a like UI level, there is a lot less choice. Of course, there's more variety on the broad level. You have a wider choice of, especially in the base game compared to 8 Deluxe, a wider choice of what kind of racing do you want to do. Do you want to do battle mode? Do you want to do versus? Do you want to do the Grand Prix, which as we mentioned are kind of different, or knockout tour, or go in free roam? You have these different paths, but eventually people will settle into, this is the kind of Mario Kart world that I like to play. I am a real big fan of versus. I'm a big fan of knockout tour, but within those modes, there is a less choice in the way that you want to approach playing that mode. It's you are playing this mode and you're ostensibly locked into, this is how we've designed this mode to be played, rather than having the flexibility. Like, and it's like, also comparing it in your head to something like Smash Ultimate, which is very much a game that is all about, in every possible mode that you can tweak and add and concoct your own version of this game mode in any one that you want. You've got these big tracks, or if you want to play World of Light, you want to play the I don't even remember the names because it's been so long since I've played Smash, but there's a bunch of big modes. You got big buttons, but then within those you can customize, so you can do what you want. And I think it's probably pretty likely that those things will come later down the line, just as either patches or alongside other major content updates. Something like 200cc not being in this game, I think will be added. Of course, that was something that was then added to 8 in a content update. So I'd say I'm 70% confident that those things will be added at some point, probably even within the next year. But I'm not 100% confident because we have no idea. But I think that's something that will definitely be fixed. And again, to the point we were saying at the beginning, this is the worst and the least content rich and the least options that Mario Kart World will ever have. Some of this stuff will be fixed. Maybe not all of it, but some of it will be fixed at some point in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, the top of my wish list right now is more battle mode options.
Sure.
I think it's quite frustrating that we have to kind of keep our fingers crossed that the next Mario Kart game, whenever, will be one that has a meaningful battle mode. And I think we got probably the best battle mode in the series history, in my opinion, with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Mm-hmm. And then to return to one that's so stripped back here is frustrating. Yeah. Even if they wanted to just throw in Shine Thief and Bob-omb Blast, largely unchanged from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and I'd be happy with that. There's some frustration around the current battle mode arenas, which are basically just small portions of the open world. I don't really mind that. I think that there are some that are way too big, like the Moo Moo Meadows area is way too big. You end up driving around for a long time without encountering people. Same with DK Pass. But that's whatever for me. I think that some of the other modes would be well suited to those larger tracks, those larger arenas, rather. And they're not there. So, like, yes, more tracks, obviously, more options, but battle mode, I just don't really see why it continues to get a short shrift. So that's probably my biggest personal disappointment with the game, 100%.
Yeah, no, I actually haven't played any battle mode. I've probably played battle mode in the past, but I don't know. It's not something I've ever really put a lot of thought into, though I know it's a sticking point for the Mario Kart community. It was something that was major as a criticism for the base Mario Kart 8. Which again, if we're doing the comparison between that base game and this, okay, we're already starting at a better place, and it is very likely that the battle mode gets updates, extra tracks, extra modes as the game progresses. So yeah, I agree conceptually that is an issue. I have no idea if I mean, obviously I don't care, but again, that's something where I have quite a bit of confidence that will be at least somewhat alleviated as the game grows.
Yeah, obviously we're talking about the other big pillar we've not talked about, which is the open world. But I'm curious. You had mentioned earlier, and I'm too intrigued. I can't let us forget. You said that there was differences in launching Mario Kart 8 Deluxe versus Mario Kart World. Yeah. That made you like World more. What was that? I'm really curious about that.
It is how much more expressive and natural this game feels. Launching Mario Kart 8 Deluxe specifically, after playing, maybe a little under 10 hours of Mario Kart World, I was like, this is fucking regimented and sterilized and like locked into, like, the characters have like one canned animation when you pick them. Everything is like these blocked off like steel menus. It's very much like the experience that I had going from 8 Deluxe, which again is a game I like, but looking back at like how simple and sterile like DS or Wii or 7 were. You remember 7 had like this garage aesthetic where it was like,
not
just
very
like
good.
No, it was really boring. But
yeah,
Mario Kart World makes Mario Kart 8 look like Mario Kart 7, where it's like just things are like really blocked off in the menus, and the characters are so much more static. Because a big part of what they did here is ground up redesign all these characters. They have facial expressions, they have different body shapes and sizes, and then they're doing more expressive animations with their body. The character selection menu has them all posing in these much more dynamic ways. The game just feels richer and more vibrant to be in. And also color wise, this game is just way more saturated and way more variety in the colors. Again, it's like looking back at Brawl when we got Smash 4 of like, oh my gosh, like we didn't know what that felt like until we had something new to compare it to. And that's what it like. It's a much more subtle jump, because you play this game, you're like, oh, it's Mario Kart. But when you look back at 8, from the frame rate's actually good in that game, but sorry, the resolution bump on this is night and day. It looks so much crisper. The character design, the animation, the use of color, the menus, the fact that instead of just like the stock image of Mario and you select the thing, it's the world is driving around you. You can just click in and you go into free roam if you want to. Like, the game feels like it is just a lot more rich to be in, and it's a much more inviting experience because they put a lot of effort, much like they did in Wonder. Again, another comparison to this game and that game. Yeah. Wonder, then you look back at like New CPU and you're like, Jesus Christ, it's so stiff. It's so stiff in comparison. Like Mario Kart, Mario's a little guy in Wonder. DK's a little fucking guy in this game. It's just so much more lively because this game just has so much more attention to detail in its visual design and colors and all of this.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I love the game. Simply. So Mario Kart 8 to me always felt a little off type for the series.
Sure.
And even on Wii U, it felt that way to me. And I couldn't quite put my finger on my criticism until the Ask the Developer column. Again, highly recommend people read
About World.
About World, because in there they talk about how a core tenet of the design of this game was returning to the playfulness of the key art of Super Mario Kart on SNES. Sure. And you can see that in the character designs. However, in that conversation, they talk about the intent behind the art direction of Mario Kart 8 being about this sense of futurism.
Yeah. Sleekness, coolness. Yeah. Those sort of adjectives.
And for Wii U, that makes perfect sense. That was Nintendo's first HD system. That was them saying, we can make these sophisticated-looking games. Yeah. Look at Pikmin 3, and then the change in art direction for Pikmin 4.
Yeah.
To be fair, Pikmin 3 also has a lot more continuity with Pikmin 1 and 2 than 4 has with them. But point being, these very impressive games early on in the life of Wii U, something like that, something like Mario Kart 8, that was the intent. I think that intent was wrong, because when I play Mario Kart World, I'm so much more wowed by the bounciness of the moment-to-moment animation, and I'm so much more endeared by the cartoony visuals and color choices. Yeah. Whereas I think Brawl is an excellent point of comparison for Mario Kart 8, and I really was clued into that by the Booster Course tracks, which, in my Mario Kart hot take, look better than the base Mario Kart 8 tracks, even the bad ones. Exactly. This game looks so much more the way that Double Dash looked, and not entirely. Dinosaur to dinosaur, I still prefer the dinosaurs of Double Dash, but I think that this is a truly, truly remarkable look for the characters, and I actually think this is the best that they've all looked. Even period, across any Mario game, this is the best in my view that they've ever looked.
Yeah, especially, I mean, when you just look design to design, again, I keep bringing up Wonder, but like, when you look at like just the render of Mario in Wonder, and you look back at what he looked like before, you're like, that is like the stock image. That looks like it was found on like a stock website. Because there's just so much more vibrancy to the way that they have like chubby little cheeks in these games, and they're a little bit more exaggerated. I was looking at the Mario Kart 8 design for Peach compared to Peach in this game, I think is the best that she's ever looked. And I was just like the Peach from this game is much closer to like the key art from Mario 2, where she's like, her hair is a little bit wider, she's a little bit squatter. Like, there's just a cartooniness, a playfulness that they brought back here that makes those other ones. It's a by comparison thing. Where like, of course, I've always thought that game looked good. It was one of the best looking Nintendo games, from its visuals to the clarity and all of that. But now that we have this, I'm like, I can't go back. It's a very subjective thing. We're like, okay, this is what I want out of how I want my characters to look, how I want them to animate, how I want their visual language to be. It's that you're right. That's something that like I didn't express this earlier, but like that's part of why I'm much more engaged with this game. Is it loses the sterility that I couldn't have put my finger on until I played this game.
Yeah, 100%. And it also pays homage to that sort of early 90s era of Nintendo that I personally am growing tired of. I think that NES and SNES I've had my fill of, with exceptions. Your Super Metroids, your Donkey Kong Countries, etc., whatever. I'm not so big on those games anymore, and I think part of it is because of the sort of devotion to the in-game aesthetic, the pixel Mario, etc., the visual tropes of that. But I think that the illustrations for so many Nintendo characters of that time were wonderful.
Yeah, of course.
And now we're at a point where
they look nothing like the in-game sprites.
and now we're at a point where we can really realize that aesthetic.
Totally.
You know, we're not taking from the sort of, in my view, underwhelming look of a lot of the Super Mario Kart tracks. Like the little color for color block walls and things. I just think are kind of boring. We're taking from the look of the characters. And I think they had so much personality, how they were drawn back then. So I like to see that in 3D now. I think that's really great. I think we're totally on the same page there.
Yeah.
What I'm curious about is the free roam, because I don't know if we're on the same page here. What do you make of free roam? Because I know for you, to set the stage a little bit, for you this was a big point for you in getting the game.
Yeah.
For me, pre-release, I didn't really care. What do you think of free roam?
It's not something that I will engage deeply with. I think that it is easily the most ambitious and most flawed aspect of this game, and maybe of the entire Mario Kart series, where it's like they're really going for something here, and it is executed. Like, they put a lot of thought into this, but then there's this other layer of thought where, especially if you want to fully explore it, and especially go for the collectibles, the game offers you no fucking assistance with that at all, and it makes it it makes it really impossible to want to do. Like you have to fight against the game to want to engage with its open world, but I think it's important that's there. Again, you and I all talk a lot about big swings that Nintendo sometimes takes, and even if they're not perfect, that's what this one feels like to me. Is like, okay, this is something totally different for the series, something totally different for that team that, to that point, had been really good at making, maybe there's a branching path, but linear corridors that are snaking around. And so you got a totally different kind of design going into this. And it's fascinating that they were able, to the extent that they did, create a living, vast world where I don't know, maybe 60% of it on like a land, like a volume basis, is really fun and interesting to explore, and you're tricking off of things, and there's enemies like conquistadors like sitting by a fire, like behind a hill or whatever. Like there are all these little secrets and little touches of life, and you can see the tracks like careening up into the sky. It's like it creates this sense of place and life, and you've got these toads that like drive these cars and they go about their business. Like there is a world here that is really rich and vibrant and well executed in its layout and design, but there also ends up being not only because it's hard to like find the collectibles, but on like, again, I said 60% of the world, there's also 40% of the world that's just empty space, and it's like, what do you really do there? I mean, I wish like the entire thing was super dense, but it's much more similar to Breath of the Wild, where it's more vast than dense. And for me, what that ends up, because there's this lack of density and also lack of inviting the player to explore it, because the UI doesn't incentivize exploration particularly well, that makes me not fall in love with it. But having it there as an attempt from this team to really create something new is exciting, but also because it impacts the way that you're, the tracks, you can see the other tracks off in the background. It gives me big Mario Sunshine energy in that way.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And the fact that now between tracks, or if you lose a knockout tour or something, the fact that you can go do something instead of just looking at a menu, that's the biggest thing. It is fun to just like, go down a street and trick off some cars or whatever, or go find some coins behind a tree. It's not great, but the fact that it's there, it makes this game more immediately engaging, because there is never true downtime in this game. You always have the option to retreat to the free roam if you want to still be in Mario Kart, but not having the high octane, high chaos energy that the rest of the game has. There's this sense of calmness and serenity that I think the free roam mode balances out the game in a really great way.
Yeah, I
brought a lot of things up there. Like, we can go by point if you want.
No, I think I feel like people are not willing to look at what the free roam mode actually is, and are instead comparing it to an idealized version of what it could be in their mind.
Sure. Yeah.
Because here's my greatest thesis about the free roam.
Yeah.
The designers and directors at EPD9 didn't ship the game and go, fuck, we forgot to put a map in.
Yeah.
Like, there is a reason that you can't find the P-switches.
Yeah.
I think the reason is that this is not meant to be played as a lot of our friends are playing it, where you sit down and over the course of a week, you clear 400 P-switches.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true at all.
No.
I think it is really what you're saying.
They're like Korok seeds.
Yeah. It's this. It is this scaffolding beneath the game.
Yeah.
And I would be very surprised if the free roam came before the interconnected tracks, which is
it definitely did. I think it did. Did they not mention that?
Or sorry, what I'm saying is that from playing it, it feels like the free roam exists because they built these tracks that connect together.
Oh, okay. I don't know which one came first, but
the reason I say that is because there's such a clear ethos and reason for the highways. There's a clear reason to connect the tracks together, not only to heighten the sense of place, as you're saying, but to have these highways that then add replayability as you route between the tracks differently for Grand Prix reverses, or to have knockout there, and to facilitate a new movement. Like, it's all there in the core pillars of the game.
Yeah.
But then there is this mode called free roam where it doesn't even have a menu option. You hit plus to simply enter it.
No, there is a menu option. One of the 3 small ones at the bottom, but it's not prominently displayed.
Sure. Yeah. And so what I view this as is I view it in the same...
It's stickers, free roam, and manual. So you...
Right.
Free roam, which is a big part of this game, is consolidated with the the collectibles and the fucking teach you how to press gas.
Yeah, and I think that is the point. That's what this is.
Exactly.
And it is exactly what you're saying. Your use case for it of jumping in for a couple minutes is my use case for it.
Yeah. Maybe you find a P-switch, maybe you find a peach coin, and you can go for it, because the challenges are pretty fun, all things considered.
Yeah.
But going for it, I think you're right, is not the design intent. Much like Koroks. So people are like, oh, there's so many fucking Koroks. It's like, you're not supposed to find them all. You're supposed to sometimes stumble on one, and it's a fun little moment.
Yeah, and like for me, when I'm waiting for, like yesterday when I was waiting for you to get online, or when I've been waiting for Dan in the past, or I have a couple minutes after I finish playing with Jean and we're gonna go leave to do something in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I'll do a P-switch, because the other thing is, it dropping you into the world wherever you finish racing to me is illustrative of the intent. You finish racing, or you boot up the game for the day, you clear a P-switch or two and then you put it down until you come back.
Yeah.
And there's this really specific anecdote a moment I had with Mario Kart 8 that I really can't get out of my head. It was not that long ago. It was maybe a year ago. I found a shortcut in Mount Warrior that I'd never found before in the previous decade of playing the game. And it like made me a little sad, because it was like I was like happy and I was sad, because like I've played this so many times. I thought there was nothing else new for me to find. And then there is, and I was like, oh man, I love finding these little moments in Mario Kart.
Sure.
Even if it's just a little shortcut that is 2 seconds of gameplay, something meaningful, a little nuance that I missed before. This mode is designed to be that for the 10 years that this game is relevant.
Sure. Yeah.
I think you're supposed to find 2 P-switches a week.
Yeah.
Because to unlock mirror mode, you need 10.
Yeah, which is not that many. That's what? That's 3% of them?
300, hold on, let me...
It's like 6% of them?
390. Yeah, we need to do 10 divided by 394.
Oh, there's almost 400 of them.
Yeah. That is 2%, and if you want to round, it's 3% of the switches to unlock mirror mode. That's all you need. It's not like the mirror mode's not a reward for 100%ing it, because this is not meant to be 100%ed. Because again, EPD9 didn't forget to put a map in the game. To be clear, I know that there is a map.
There is a map, yeah,
but it doesn't track shit in it at all. I just think that this is the sort of thing that has to be engaged with on its terms. Now, to be fair, I do think that the way they were gassing it up, no pun intended, was that it would be something a little bit more structure, or at minimum the expectation was that, and the expectation wasn't aptly set pre-release. To be fair, but I think that once we have the game now and we sit with it, this is the way, so we're on the same page, I think, with free roam. This is the way it's meant to be engaged with. And I think that's interesting.
Because it's not only just for that downtime, as we're saying, which we feel is very clear through the design language that they're communicating to you. You're not supposed to focus on it, frankly. But it's about that downtime. But it's also about the community. Because the other part of this game is it is a massive lobby. That where when you are online with your friends, you can just go around together. You can change your costume and see which one that they're wearing. You can do your animations. You can do a shared photo mode. And again, this is another thing I want to talk about. I want to talk about costumes and roster, and I want to talk about the social aspect of this game, because Switch 2 is so much more social of a console than the Switch was. The ease of game chat and the way that it's integrated with this game is remarkable. We were talking pre-launch about, like, oh, Nintendo made shitty Discord. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, yes. that is still true. But decent Discord, surprisingly decent Discord, being integrated into your system where you can have your friends' cameras on at the bottom of your screen. You could be sharing your screen with them to see what they're doing, what they're at the map, on the map. And then having that translate into the game where it's really easy to join your friends. It's really easy to make a lobby and join these different modes together. And then while you're waiting, you're placed together in the open world. You can open the map and instantly teleport to them if you want to. And just like see them roll around. It's very simple. It's not the craziest hub. But just having that social engagement rather than Discord's over here, you're playing Mario Kart 8 over here. The menus are locked off like this. You have no place to see them except for the Mii's that you can say I'm using tilt controls. Like, people gas that up as something they have nostalgia for, but that's not a good social feature. It's not cute. Well, it's cute, but that's where that ends.
Yeah.
But this is so much more baked into the identity of the game, and especially with the fact that you can have the person's face in a little bubble above their cart, and you can see their face spin when they get hit by a shell. Like, it's clear that they want this to be in the way that Fortnite has become so successful, of a place just for people to hang out. You're playing the game, but it's also more about facilitating these fun moments of either exploration or chaos or serenity with your friends. You get to approach Mario Kart World with your friends in whichever one of those ways you want, and freely and very quickly swap between them with rock solid online and rock solid frame rate and 24 people. So you can have a massive group of players together. This game facilitates social function in a way that the other games definitely don't, and now this game feels so much more richer because of it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, game chat, I really couldn't have been more wrong about.
Yeah.
I think it's so good. For me, I just need something simple. And there are annoying parameters around game chat.
Yeah.
The biggest example being if we were playing and then Dan texts and be like, "Oh, I see you guys are playing Mario Kart. Let's play together." We'd have to leave game chat, make a new lobby. So whatever I do, if I make one, I just invite you, Dan, Bo, and Caleb, and whoever shows up can show up.
Yeah.
But it's just so seamless, and I'm really excited. We're gonna do at some point a video about the Switch 2, broadly speaking. Mm-hmm. At this point, I almost want to keep waiting a little bit, like wait a month, see how we feel about system with a month.
Yeah, I would say let's play through Bonanza. Because then we will have a big multiplayer game. We'll have enough time with the system where we'll have experienced third-party games and indies and things like that.
That sounds good
and
to
then
me.
we'll have a big single-player game as well.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Just the point being, I think it's worth putting in right now. Game chat's really cool as of now.
Yeah.
I
think it's important to bring up here because, again, this is the launch title for this game.
Yes.
This game, much like we were talking about with Welcome Tour, this game feels very well synergized with what the Switch 2 is capable of.
Yeah.
And it both enhance each other in great ways.
There are two, I think there's two choices, whether they're technical or creative or oversight, I'm not sure, that make the social functions in this game worse for me. One is the fact that you can't find P-switches together.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what it's about.
I think that's a big bummer because, so I have my Switch 2, Jean has one as well, and I was thinking, we can go around and find P-switches together. We can't.
Yeah.
We can find the panels, we can find the Peach medallions, but that's not super fun. I mean, even if, we had to take turns trying to clear them, or, I don't know how you would go about, setting that up to work right, or even if we had to enter a specific free roam instance together opposed to it being in the interstitial lobby. Yeah. I just would have liked a solution to actual cooperative P-switch collecting.
Can you just do it local? Like local co-op in the free roam? I think that's probably possible.
I'll test it out actually. I'll leave a little, we can put a little.
Not that that's ideal.
No.
Because then your screen is also way smaller. This game.
Wait! Sorry. You mean split? There's no split screen in free roam.
Okay.
I thought you meant local communication versus online communication.
No, I don't think that changes anything.
Yeah, there is no split screen in free roam.
Yeah.
Which is another disappointment, I think, there.
Yeah.
But the other one, again, this is just, I don't know what the rationale for this is, but you can't, if you want to play Knockout Tour with your friend, you have to do it in a private lobby with bots. You can't join on your friend in Knockout Tour with online randoms. You can do that with races. You can't do that with Knockout Tour.
Yeah.
which I don't see the justification for either, because again, you can do it with races. You can, if your friend is just playing online, they don't even have to open up the lobby. You just jump onto them and you can join.
Yeah, and when there's a free slot, you jump in. Yeah,
doesn't work with Knockout Tour. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Because that's a big pillar of the game, and like I was having fun playing Knockout Tour with you and Dan yesterday against bots, but really it's more fun if it's against other people.
Yeah. The solution that people are doing is you just get a lot of people to play one Knockout Tour. Like you get a lot of friends to play it together.
Yeah, which is cool. I just don't see why you can't do it with 2 or 3 in a public lobby. But again, these are things that are only frustrating because the game does such a good job of making you want to play it socially.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
It's like 85% of the way there, and when you see that last 15%, you're like, oh damn. But like also, and that's the thing about this game is. It is ambitious to a fault, but that fault is not that big. Those faults are little tiny things that you're on a structure level or an experience level. You're like, damn, I wish this was a little bit better because it does feel like, and obviously we're not the technical people, but like it feels like it could have happened. Yeah. And so it's like, oh, clearly they made this choice intentionally. We don't know why, but also again, I think a lot of this stuff could be fixed. There's some of this stuff I don't know if it's possible to fix. Like it feels like they made this decision deliberately, and maybe it would break things if they fixed it somehow. But I do think it's possible a lot of these issues end up coming around in patches.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. I think probably roster is the last thing to talk about, and then we'll call it good. What do you think of the roster?
There's 2 elements to the roster.
Yeah.
There is costumes and there's funny little guys.
Yeah.
So you got these 2 pillars. And the fact that there's both of them in this game is chef's kiss.
Yeah.
The costumes, you and I were talking about this last night. They're so good that it is insane that they took this long to implement it into the core system of Mario Kart. Of course, that was something that was very big in Tour, and actually I think it's probably better done in Tour. But what they have available here is awesome. I love all these costumes. They're so varied. I like that you have like little genres of costumes. So it's like, okay, the pro racer costumes for like most of the cast. They're unequally distributed, which makes them feel odd. But I like what's there, and it really gives you an expressiveness and a variety, and again, something that's fun to collect for with the costumes. I think the costumes are really, really great.
Yeah, I agree. The distribution just really bums me out. It's really weird. Simple as that, because like Donkey Kong, I love him, and I want to always play as Donkey Kong, but the only costume is like a send up to Mario Strikers, and that's kind of lame. Like I wish. And people keep saying we'll get like a little bonanza update. I don't know if that's actually going to happen. All I can speak about is actually in the game, and I think it's disappointing that like we don't have any alt fur colors, or we don't have like him in the bonanza overalls, or even just because like recolors. You know, if you can't design custom costumes for everyone, give me like the Yeti recolor from Smash Brothers or things like there's cool stuff like that I would have liked to see, and at least make it feel like there's a little bit more to earn for my favorite characters, and not like disproportionately characters I don't have any intent to play as, like the baby characters get the cool stuff, and someone as core to the roster as Donkey Kong gets one thing.
Yeah, it's so bizarre that for me is the most obvious thing that will be updated consistently. Is a 5 or 6 costume drop every 6 or 7 or 8 weeks, I think is, in my mind, a lock for at least this first year. Because there are those glaring omissions where it's like, what the fuck do you mean you didn't make any designs for Donkey Kong? But here's what's going to happen, is we're going to have a Nintendo Direct. It's going to be, hey, we're adding 200cc, and here's a couple of costumes. And then it's going to be like, it's available now. And then you're going to have an extra 3 or 4 Donkey Kong costumes and 3 or 4 Pauline costumes or whatever. And then suddenly, for the rest of the history of this game, there's going to be plenty of costumes for Donkey Kong. And so that is something where I'm like, yeah, that's a problem now, but I am not worried about that. Because that is the easiest thing to implement. The interesting thing about updating this game is because it's so designed around this world, and like, how do you add maps? Do you put them in the sky? Do you put them on the ground? Do you add like pipes that take you to other areas? Are there other islands maybe that you go to? Like, the updates of this game are going to be interesting to see how they implement, but costumes, you don't fucking worry about that at all. Absolutely, those are going to be consistently updated.
Because there's a lot of types of food that you pick up as these characters with limited costumes where they don't get anything.
No.
So it's pretty easy to map a costume onto those nodes. I do.
Yeah, exactly.
But the costumes that are here are wonderful, 100%. There's no doubt about that. In terms of the mode of unlocking them and NPC characters, I think it's completely befuddling. I think it's probably...
That is a WND, a weird Nintendo decision.
Yeah, I think especially the NPC characters is just like... Well, because the NPC characters are unlocked by Kamek turning you into that NPC on the correct track, and then you unlock them for your roster.
Yeah.
This, like the free roam, I get why they did it.
Mm-hmm.
Because...
It's a long-term game.
It's a long-term game, and this is going to... Because imagine if I had been playing Mario Kart 8 and... Because I got my Wii U for that game in September of 2014. If I was still unlocking a new character in, like, January of 2015, I would have been over the moon, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I think the DLC was 2015, so technically I unlocked some new characters in January 2015. But
you unlock them by giving your parents' credit card. It's Nintendo.
I still think it's frustrating, and I think everybody is frustrated by this that has like a specific character they want. Now, I got mine early, thankfully, which was Pianta. I wanted Pianta bad, and I got Pianta pretty early on, which I was happy about. But now my new Chase character, like it's a fucking trading card game or something. I'm basically playing a gacha game. This is the closest I'm ever going to get to playing a gacha game.
That is actually true, yeah.
I want Rocky Wrench so fucking badly. Yeah. But I think the thing with the Kamek item that bums me out is like it's so weird because you have to be in front of the person who threw it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it doesn't exactly work. Right?
Yeah, it doesn't go far enough or something.
Yeah, and the other thing that bums me out is, like, I have gotten the Kamek item, and it makes me sad, because, like, I wish I was one in front of the person that got the Kamek item.
The Kamek item is fascinating. Yeah. Tying the character unlocks to it is hilarious. Yeah. I think, ultimately, when you think about it from a design level, I think it's the right decision, because the exact thing you're talking about is you now have a stretch goal for Mario Kart. And for a lot of people, having those long-term, like, oh man, I'm going to grind this until I get it, is a big incentive. People do that in every other fucking game. But in other Mario Kart games, of course, there were sometimes unlockable characters, but especially in 8 and 8 Deluxe, it was like, yay, I got the fucking Wario glider. Yep. And I got that because I played the game for an hour. Like, and there wasn't any specific reason that it was happening, so nothing to chase. It didn't last very long because there wasn't that much to go for. But the randomness and the befuddling nature of it, I do think actually lends itself to a longer-term incentive. To like, oh man, I'm just missing this one last guy. I'm going to keep playing these tracks. But also, it's the kind of thing you're mentioning where it's a pros and cons game, right?
Yeah.
If everyone had already unlocked all the characters because they played it for 40 hours in the first week, they'd be like, damn, I've seen everything this game has to offer. And now it's like you are still chasing Cataquack or whatever, and you might not get that until playing the game for a month and a half or something like that.
I agree with you with the sentiment, but I just think that the implementation is silly. Because it's like...
Here's actually a balance thing that could have worked, maybe.
Yeah.
Is maybe you could spend Peach medallions to get those characters. And it'd be like, maybe make it kind of expensive, incentivize the exploration, but get you that option to choose one, or if you have enough coins, but having that as a background system to kind of just naturally get them as you're playing and be like, oh, that's a cool surprise. I think it's cool, but you're right, there's not like a secondary way to get them.
But and I think that would have been a good use for that currency, but my other thing is I was just pulling up the Mario Kart Wii unlockables list because I was trying to remember, because when I was a kid I distinctly remember getting really frustrated trying to unlock the Blue Falcon from F-Zero as a cart, and I just like, am I right in thinking that these were interesting unlock conditions for carts and characters, or am I wrong? But they are fairly interesting, and they incentivize you to engage with more of the game. So here's a good example. To unlock Funky Kong, you had to unlock 4 expert staff ghost data records in time trial mode. So you had to play time trial and beat a certain time trial time to unlock an expert one, and then you could get Funky Kong.
Yeah, that's very much like how Brawl handled unlocking its characters. As this is much more Smash Ultimate in the way that, well, no, Smash Ultimate actually works way better in terms of the clip you're unlocking characters. But
and
there's no other game that has you unlocking characters like Mario Kart World does.
No, 100%. And like I was right, but I remember that's why Blue Falcon was hard because he had to win the Mirror Cup, play time trial in 8 courses for the Magic Cruiser. So and there's all these different conditions or like weird shit to unlock, like an alternate title screen for clearing every CC of every cup, and various things like that. So I just feel like, yes, this does bring about the need for long-term play, but it's also weird.
Yeah, definitely.
And I just like because like time right now I've got no reason to play time trials. I have no interest in grinding time trials. That's one aspect of Mario Kart I've never gotten into. But if I had to grind time trials like to get Sidestepper, then I would do it. You know, because there are aspects of this game that go underappreciated, like time trials by a lot of players. Because why would you go into that, or why would you? Maybe if you don't play battle mode, why would you unless you get something for it?
Yeah.
But you mainline. The unlockables that are here that are done in a traditional way by just clearing the cups regularly at any CC class or every 100 coins you get a cart in a random order. So I just wish that the collectibles would have handled differently.
Yeah,
but there's no doubt that I love playing as the Penguin. I love playing as the Pianta.
Yeah,
those are my 2 go-to NPC drivers right now until I get Rocky Wrench.
Yeah, no, for me it is. The fact that they're there at all makes me happy because I've always been the guy to go to a Mario Kart game and pick the character that you can't play as in any other game, period. Or also in Mario sports games or Mario Party. When I saw Goomba in the Super Mario Party trailer, I was over the moon. Or like learning that Charge and Chuck was going to be in Aces or whatever, or Super Rush. I was like, holy shit, I can't believe this. And so those weirder characters have always been a staple of Mario spin-off games that I thought was one of the most exciting parts of it. To see how deep into the roster we were going to go. That's something we've always talked about. Like, man, I wish that they went deeper into the wider Mario universe to pull from these characters. And I do think that we've set a really interesting precedent with Mario Kart World where we got the big ones out of the way and we got the small ones out of the way. And so, like, no one ever expected you to actually be able to play as Fishbones. Or obviously the cow, which is like an iconic one now. And now we have this like this gulf in the middle where I would not be shocked at all if Polterpup becomes playable in this game, like through an update. Like maybe there's a Halloween update that's Luigi's Mansion themed, or around the launch of the next Luigi's Mansion game, or maybe the Void Company Kongs end up being added as playable characters. Maybe you get Diddy, Dixie,
Funky.
Like maybe there's a Donkey Kong character like pack that is maybe even purchasable. I don't know like how much paid DLC they're going to do for this game, but like we they don't have to add the tiny ones now because they already did those. But I also think that it gives them so much breadth of stuff to continue to update. Right? Yes, okay. There's these other characters we can add from other Mario spin-off games, other Mario Universe games, but like. I think at some point we're going to get, Pro Racer Cheap. I think the costumes are eventually going to come for these things, and that's going to be a hilarious moment of like when there was like a weird Mii costume added. It's not a major moment, but it's something to continue to keep you engaged, and especially for this game, then you want to go unlock all the costumes for Rocky Wrench or Pianta or Cataquack. Like once we get like Grave Robber Cataquack. Like it's gonna be a fun day when that happens because they've just added the stuff that creates a really great groundwork to then build things on top of.
100%. And I think where I wrap up is that if they didn't update the game ever, I would be very, very happy with Mario Kart World.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious to see what they're gonna do to it because as I think what we've discovered is that there is a lot to do and a lot that can be done. And the question now is what will they do and when will they do it? But in the short term for me, I'm really, really happy with this game. I had such high expectations for it because it'd been so long, and Mario Kart's probably my 5 favorite Nintendo series ever. Again, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is in my top 5 games ever, and Double Dash is probably my top 15. So There's a lot riding on this one. Again, no pun intended for me personally, and it really did deliver. And we'll have a different conversation about the launch window, for sure. But I kind of feel my time with Switch 2 is easy because I'm just having so much fun.
Yeah,
putting more and more hours into Mario Kart World, and I don't feel an ounce of fatigue with the game. So I'm really happy about it, and I'm really happy that it's speaking to you, and they've found this way to widen the appeal of Mario Kart without sacrificing the interest of the hardcore. And they've been really good about this in many instances, but in some instances not so much. I think of an Animal Crossing where it feels like, oh, a new audience gets something that they really wanted, but maybe the old audience didn't quite get what they were after too. But I really feel like everybody got out of Mario Kart World what they were hoping for, and I think that's a hard thing to accomplish.
No, definitely, because it's got the casual social appeal of something like Fortnite, which I think is, especially for the success of that game, not a bad thing to pull from if you're trying to make just like a general social experience. But it also has the depth, and this is in some ways both the Fortnite and the Melee of Mario Kart. Where it's got this crazy fucking tech and these like weird crazy things that you can do. You feel like you're breaking the game, which I think is really, really special. And for me, the final point to leave it on is that naturally through the conversation, I brought up many touchstones of modern Nintendo design that I feel Mario Kart World sits alongside very comfortably. Yeah. And for us, we referenced 3 games in particular that are like a trilogy of 3 of our combined favorite games of all time, which is Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and Pikmin 4. This is the Breath of the Wild moment for Mario Kart. It's the Mario Wonder moment for Mario Kart. And that's the highest bar that you can set, in my opinion, because I think those are the 2 best games ever made. And so, finally, to get a Mario Kart game that fits within the post-Switch, the Switch and post-Switch design ethos is like, oh, this is what's been cooking. And of course, we've got Donkey Kong Bonanza, which seems like it's going to be in that tradition coming soon. But like, we were talking so much over the course of the last few years, like, man, what series can they really do? And Mario Kart was always that white whale. And we have it now, and it fits very comfortably in terms of design, but it also has learned from those other games as well. This is maybe the best social game that Nintendo has made in terms of rock solid online and tons of options and a hub world for you to hang out in that is in some ways limited. So it feels like it's got that little bit of Nintendo stank sprinkled on top in areas. But I like that it is very much of this era in the way that I think so many of these other series have been improved and appealed to me more personally and broadened their appeal. We now have that for Mario Kart, which is really, really excellent.
Well,